All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. You're listening to the Scoreboard. Happy Friday, everybody. Oh, man, we got a lot of information to cover today. But what Friday don't we have a lot to cover? I mean, we are in the middle of NFL playoff races, right smack in the middle of it. We're going to go over some of that a little bit later on in the show. There's some other things going on in the world of sports that I think definitely need to have some attention brought to it, including NASCAR. I know we haven't talked much NASCAR over the past, month and a half or so after the championship race in November. But there is that lawsuit that's been going on between 2311, Front Row Motorsports, and NASCAR regarding the charter system and the claim that NASCAR is a monopoly. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later on. We're also going to bring on Patrick Reynolds to join us on the program. He's going to give some thoughts on this NASCAR situation. He's got some background in NASCAR. If you listen to any of the WSIC programs, whether it's mine or Home Ed or even Good Morning LKN, you probably know that Patrick Reynolds was one time a pit crew member in NASCAR, Red Bull Racing and whatnot. So we're going to talk NASCAR a little bit later on in the program. We're also going to talk right now. First thing that we have to get into is your NCHSAA football state championship games. Yes, we have state championship games. We have one coming up later tonight, and then that'll be followed up with 3 of them coming later on Saturday. So we're going to also get into college football as well. It's going to be a big football show today. Not only high school and college, but we'll do NFL as well. We have the first ever round of 12 college football playoff game coming up later tonight. So not only high school state championship games tonight, but also college football playoff games tonight. And then tomorrow we will have even more of those college football playoff games. So let's go ahead and get started with things right away, starting with the high school sports scene. Boy, we have 4 really good state championship games coming up for you. One of them tonight, 3 of them on Saturday. We're going to start the night off Friday night, 7 p.m. at Kenan Stadium at UNC Chapel Hill. It'll be the 4A championship between Rollsville High School and Grimsley High School. Now, we've talked a little bit about Grimsley High School, mostly because of the North Carolina Gatorade Player of the Year. Faison Brandon is on that team, junior quarterback. He has brought this Grimsley Whirlies team to the state championship game where they're going to be taking on Rollsville out of the east side of the state. Now, keep in mind, Rollsville, they're a pretty decent team this year, I'd say. I mean, they had to get to the state championship. They got to be a decent team, but they are the 5 seed in the east side of the bracket for 4A. So they do have a loss on their schedule this year, but comparing these two teams is going to be really tough to do between Grimsley and Rollsville. Both of them ranked within the top 100 schools nationally, according to MaxPreps. Now, Grimsley is the number 1 ranked team in the state of North Carolina, and Rollsville is the number 3 ranked team in the state of North Carolina. So we have the battle of some of the best teams in North Carolina coming up later tonight. Yes, tonight. It'll be at UNC Chapel Hill. Keep that in mind. Kenan Stadium at UNC. Tonight at 7 p.m., Rollsville High School versus Grimsley High School. Grimsley with the Gatorade Player of the Year in Faison Brandon. So that's going to be one of the state championship games that we have going on later tonight. Then tomorrow, we have a slate of 3 games. The 1A, 2A, and 3A championships will need to be decided, and it starts early tomorrow, 11 a.m. Yeah, the first game is at 11 a.m. at Carter Finley Stadium at North Carolina State University, NC State. Saturday, December 21st at 11 a.m. is that 3A championship. You have 71st High School versus West Charlotte High School. West Charlotte, just out of our range here in the Charlotte area, obviously. They're the number 7 ranked team in the state. They had a pretty decent season, I'd say, only dropping 2 games on the year. Those 2 games that they dropped were within their conference. They lost 13-12 to Mallard Creek, a really close game. And then they kind of got blown out by Huff High School. But if you remember Huff High School, they got eliminated early in these playoffs. I really thought Huff was going to be a team to watch as we moved through the end of the season, but they got eliminated a lot earlier than I thought they would. West Charlotte, though, they have been dominant in these playoffs. They have 2 shutouts in the playoffs so far, 1 game where they only allowed a field goal, and then in their other 2 games, their 2 most recent games, they allowed 13 points to Dudley and 20 points to the reigning state championship Hickory High School. That's a really good team over there in West Charlotte. Obviously, we got to root for the teams on the west side of the state, right? Right? So hopefully West Charlotte's able to get it done and bring in a state championship to the area. After the 3A state championship at 3 p.m., we'll have the 1A state championship. It's Tarboro High School versus Corvian Community High School, a 1 seed versus a 5 seed. And what's interesting about this, both of these schools, both Tarboro and Corvian Community, combined only have 1 loss on the season. Yeah, we're getting down to the end of the year here, and there's not a lot of teams that have losses on their record. Now, perfection is not required to win a state championship, but you do get the better seeding, the better your regular season is. What's interesting, in my opinion, here is Tarboro, they had a loss. They're still the 1 seed coming out of the East. Corvian Community undefeated throughout the year, beating some really good teams along the way. They ended up as the 5 seed, so a little bit of a discrepancy there between the ratings here of Tarboro and Corvian Community. But nonetheless, the 3 p.m. state championship game at North Carolina State University, NC State, if you will, that's at Carter Finley Stadium between Tarboro High School and Corvian Community, is going to be at 3 p.m. And then Saturday, we'll end the night back at UNC Chapel Hill, Kenan Stadium, the 2A championship, Northeastern High School versus Monroe High School. That is going to be a good one as well. I'm telling you, all of these games should be pretty entertaining. Northeastern and Monroe both combined for no losses this year. Neither team has lost. Somebody's going to have to lose, but somebody is going to get themselves a state championship as well. How about it? Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming up to the end of the segment here. When we return, we're going to get into some NASCAR news. Talk with Patrick Reynolds, who's in studio with us today. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this. Welcome back. Segment 2 here on the Scoreboard. Got to remind everyone or let you know that today's episode was pre-recorded. No phone calls today. I do apologize, but it is all current as of Friday, December 20th. So it is not old content. It is new. It's just a little earlier in the day for me to be recording. Now we're going to move on from the high school sports scene. I got Patrick Reynolds in studio with me here today. He's going to join us to talk about some NASCAR. Patrick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the Scoreboard here,
man.
Joe.
I know you're not really the biggest NASCAR follower during the season, but I assume that you have been aware of this lawsuit between 2311 and Front Row Motorsports.
You're very accurate on all that. Yes.
Yeah.
Lap to lap. I used to be a lap to lap guy a few decades ago, but not anymore. I still follow the sport, but very much, this lawsuit definitely captured the attention of the sport. A lot of eyes and ears in, not only NASCAR on it, but outside of NASCAR. They're watching this to see what happens, because this could definitely shake all of motorsports as far as a court ruling and a precedent down the road in the future.
This is a antitrust lawsuit, basically saying that NASCAR, with the changes that they've made between who's sending parts to the teams to build the cars and regulations that they have, that they are controlling these teams to only be able to participate in NASCAR. That's basically the gist of the lawsuit, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
Plus the charters and the backhanded move that NASCAR made to get the charters agreement in. It kind of all culminated into this lawsuit, I'd say.
Yeah, if you were to summarize it, I think Denny Hamlin said this as his, he summarized it too on his podcast, was that, hey, as a team owner, you're giving away all your rights to anything. It's like NASCAR kind of controls everything, and they wanted to participate. They wanted to be a chartered team, but they didn't want to give up the control of certain aspects of their race team. Fair statement to not sign. And as a few others, team owners anonymously said, I didn't have, air quotes, the guts to not sign the charter. They went with it.
And there were some that not anonymously said that. I believe RCR was talking with Bob Procris, and Bob posted the conversation to his Twitter where Richard Childress would basically said, I have so many employees at my shop to worry about that I had to sign this charter agreement. Otherwise, who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, the unknown there. He didn't want to go down that road. You think about the millions that are at stake by a signature of a pen. The employees, the annual salaries that they're all counting on. He's got several hundred employees at RCR. They all have families and mortgages and children and groceries to buy. He's got the millions from his sponsor deals, a lot of family members involved in the team. Oh yeah, there's a whole lot at stake. So it's real easy financial security to sign that, even though you don't agree with it, you don't like it, but sign it and move on and continue on with business.
Well, the news from late Wednesday was this, and I'm going to read the tweet from Bob Procris, who is my go-to for a lot of this information.
Good man.
He's a great reporter.
Great reporter, great journalist.
Breaking news from Wednesday night, 2311 and Front Row Motorsports have obtained the preliminary injunction to race as chartered teams in 2025, as well as approval for the SHR transfers. So if you remember 2311 FRM, they were both going to buy charters from the now shut down Stewart-Haas Racing. The judge has now ruled that NASCAR has to let them sign the agreement and continue on with the lawsuit. I think this is a big thumbs up for, maybe not for the people in NASCAR, for the France family, but for NASCAR fans and the drivers and the teams. A big double thumbs up from me on this.
You like it?
I like it.
Yeah.
I like what they're doing in challenging what NASCAR has been doing. And I like that we're going to actually see the outcome of this. Like, this is, the judge is going to allow this to happen.
Yeah.
And we're going to go through the whole process. What do you think that this is a good thing for NASCAR?
I don't think it's a good thing for NASCAR, but I didn't think the charters were a step in the right direction to begin with.
Right.
I did not like the idea of the charters. And years ago when the charters were introduced, we all saw this coming. I kidded several times right here on air. Stevie Wonder saw this coming. Eventually, there was going to be somebody with some guts to step up and file a lawsuit, and it was going to be an antitrust lawsuit that you're creating a monopoly and taking away the freedoms of the teams. The teams they work for themselves, so to speak. None of the teams, none of the drivers, none of the owners work for NASCAR. They're their own contractors where they enter the race. And that was the difference in not creating franchises in NASCAR, but creating this charter system. I think with the charter system, NASCAR had more control over the teams. They were under their thumb.
Yeah.
And NASCAR looking out for its own best interests to the detriment of the teams, but I think they knew that. There's been times over the years where simply the teams did not want to ruffle the feathers of NASCAR and towed the company line because all those cars got to go through inspection every week, pre-race, post-race, and maybe NASCAR is a little bit lenient on you, and maybe they're a little bit tougher. And I've witnessed this at the track.
As a former pit crew member
I have seen it. They will not come out. Nobody will. There's no stories written about it or publicly saying it. I have witnessed it. Well, maybe my car, we're on good terms with NASCAR. We're not ruffling any feathers. We go through tech inspection just fine. But there's a team owner or a driver that ran their mouth in the media, and I've seen that car go through inspection and then not go through inspection and didn't pass. It goes back, and I've seen it. Or maybe, you need to get that car through inspection in order to get approved, in order to get on the track for practice. Practice time used to be so valuable. They used to have days of practice leading up to a race.
Three practice sessions.
You did not want to miss any minute of practice. Maybe your car was still going through tech inspection when practice started.
Yeah.
It was a vendetta. There were vendettas. I've got stories people have told me right from Bill France Sr. and Jr. themselves of they would make phone calls because it was a monopoly and a dictatorship. The sport itself was better, I think, when it was just behind the scenes dictatorship as opposed to on paper a dictatorship. Now you've got black and white ink. Teams are free to go to lawsuits. That's where we are now with this 2311 F front row.
And it's completely different than NASCAR. We've talked about it. Not only the product and the sport itself being completely different than stick and ball sports in terms of everybody's out there every single race, but also NASCAR is not run like the NFL. It's not run like the NBA. They have a CEO. They have somebody up in charge of the entire thing. Yeah. They don't have a commissioner. Right. That kind of the commissioner in the NFL works for the owners, right? That he is elected by the owners and he works for them.
All of them.
Yeah. In conjunction together, and they meet all the time and they come up with rules and there's votes and stuff like that. It's not like that in NASCAR. You have a CEO. The France family, it's always somebody in the
privately owned company.
Who knows who's actually in charge of NASCAR right now?
Depends.
But it is privately owned. In NASCAR, the France family can make it up as they go, literally, because they have nobody to answer to. And I think part of that is why we're seeing this lawsuit. Is maybe out of this we do see NASCAR turn the page a little bit and say, okay, maybe we do need like a little bit more structure. Maybe, it might be forced. Their hand might be forced by the courts to do this. But I think this is going to cause real change.
It will cause real change. You either have to revert back out of the charters, which I don't think they're going to do, or you got to go deeper and go into the full-blown stick and ball mentality of a commissioner, of a board. Brian France, years ago, put Jeff Gordon into the playoffs as driver 13 when there were only 12 drivers there because he could.
Because he could.
And there's no different than today. Somebody still could do that. Maybe Steve Phelps or Steve O'Donnell could. Will they? No. But could they? Yes. On paper, that power is still allowed. It's a private company as a CEO. You can make decisions to do that. No different than, WSIC is a privately owned company. One man or owns it. He can make decisions as he sees fit for his company. You can do that. And that is what NASCAR is. And an NFL, a team owner or commissioner can't just do whatever they want and expand playoffs like that. Yeah. You cannot do that. NASCAR is getting closer and closer to stick and ball paperwork.
Do we see a collective bargaining agreement come out of this?
Within not soon, but yes.
You think so?
Yeah, I'm going to say within down the road. I would say 5 to 10 years away.
Yeah,
but yes, you will. You'll see what the Francis hated. Unions.
Yeah.
You will see it because you stuck your toe in the water and now you just keep going deeper.
And I think the biggest question for me, at least, is it going to be a drivers union? Is it a team union?
I bet it's a team owners union.
I would think that's the way you go because you would think if you're going to compare it to stick and ball sports, the team owner has players. So in NASCAR, it's the team owner has drivers. He has pit crew members. Yeah. He has a crew chief, a spotter.
Yeah.
So I could see it going that way.
The driver worked for himself, but he got paychecks from the team, same as I did, as a mechanic, as a fabricator, as a tire changer. every 2 weeks, I'm an employee. There's my deposit into my account. So the driver was no different. He was a private contractor, but he still got paid every week or every 2 weeks, whatever his contract called for, by the team owner. And that is the connection, direct connection, business-wise, NASCAR team owners. That's where you're going to see the collective bargaining agreement, owners, not drivers.
Yeah.
You're going to see it.
And man, I'm just excited for this lawsuit. The judge apparently has said that they're aiming for a completion before the 2026 season begins.
I could see that.
So a year.
I'm interested if they can file another lawsuit. Like if this lawsuit is allowed to continue, which it will, what if something else comes up? Could they also file another lawsuit even though they're a signed charter team? I want to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Well, that's Patrick Reynolds talking about the NASCAR lawsuit between NASCAR and 2311 and Front Row Motorsports. There's going to be more news during the offseason on this, I'm sure, before we get to the start of the season at Daytona. We'll probably bring some more news for you here. Maybe have Patrick Reynolds back on. Stay tuned. Segment 3. We're back after this. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is segment 3 on the scoreboard. I got a surprise for you. I said we weren't going to do another segment, but I'm here with Patrick Reynolds again.
Hey, man.
Hey, you want to talk some more NASCAR? We both want to talk some more NASCAR.
There's a whole lot to this lawsuit going on.
There's so much, and you wanted to kind of get into the more specifics on the lawsuit. Last segment, we kind of just talked around it, about it, what it means. Maybe there's people out there that don't really know exactly what's going on. So let's get a little bit deeper into the weeds here and talk more about what the lawsuit is and what it means. So, Patrick, what are your thoughts? What do you have to say?
Well, 2311 and Front Row suing NASCAR, and I think it is about giving up the control of their team. There's a clause in there saying that if you sign the charter, that you cannot sue NASCAR. And there's an ongoing lawsuit right now about that. So it's kind of like,
Yes.
the chicken or egg, what comes first on this thing. So the current judge that is running this case has decided that both teams can begin the 2025 season as chartered teams, and this lawsuit can continue. And my questions are, I've got several, and they're rhetorical. I don't expect Joe to answer them, or maybe an audience member down the road here as the scoreboard continues on in the weeks and months ahead. We can get into discussions, but I'm watching this lawsuit and it's like, okay, the teams can start 2025 as charter teams. As I brought up in the last segment, how easily will they go through tech inspection? How lenient will the inspectors be? I know there's a lot of cases where it's like, are you really breaking the rule, or is it just something the inspector doesn't like type of thing? I think these teams have a potential to have a hard time, very difficult time going through tech inspection, and any judgments that NASCAR has to make could very well go against them. They have sued NASCAR. Basically, they're giving up their freedoms to sue NASCAR, and they didn't want to do that. So as they begin the season, as the lawsuit continues on during 2025, can their charters be removed? That's a question that I don't know either one of us has the answer to. So could they potentially be unchartered teams if the lawsuit is settled, let's say summertime of 2025? Depending on how that verdict goes, could they be removed as chartered teams? This lawsuit can continue. Question 2, what if they were to come up with another item in which they want to sue NASCAR for? Let's file a second lawsuit about another topic. Are they allowed to do that?
Since they signed the
right, because since they signed the charter, this lawsuit is allowed to continue. But does that open up a loophole of another lawsuit for just any item? And I don't have a topic.
Right.
I don't have an item, but there's another item in this contract that goes, we don't like this either. We're going to sue to get that out of there. Can they still do that? What are the ramifications of this? This is definitely stick and ball material, stick and ball mentality. NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, they've all been through this because of contracts, of players' unions, of commissions, of boards. But there's a precedent for this. It's laid out. And now as NASCAR gets deeper into the weeds as a stick and ball sport, which is why they lost their fan base to begin with. Let's put it out there.
Yep.
That is why your traditional longtime fan base bailed on you, is because you tried to be like the NFL. It's like, here's a NASCAR fan's point of view. If I wanted to watch the NFL, I'll watch the NFL. I don't. I want to watch car racing, and you're trying to make it into the NFL, and it drove their core fan base away. So here we are again, going deeper into this with contracts in business and lawsuits. I was like, this is, a collective bargaining agreement. This is, you're on the road to players unions. You're on the road now to a car owners union of some sort, possibly a drivers union. The drivers, actually went on strike, back in, I think it was 69 or something like that. And there was the infamous race at Talladega where NASCAR allowed a lot of the Saturday Grand American cars to run on Sunday because the Grand National guys went on strike and whatnot. Yeah. It didn't last long. And a dictatorship, it didn't last long. Here's what I think is like NASCAR was better off years ago when it was a dictatorship. We didn't have union, we don't have a union right now. They tried to get a union for this. Did not work out well for them. Now the sport is run not by racers, which the France understood racers, but it's run by business people and people that are familiar with sports and probably didn't even know what NASCAR was until the 2000s, right, and have just read about the history of the sport. And now they're into, well, the NFL goes like this, the NHL goes like this. Why don't we do this? Well, this is why.
Because you're not. Because you're not them.
You're not them. And this is just the first of what I think are plenty of lawsuits coming for different things down the road. You've got a couple of owners, Front Row and 2311, that had the guts to do this. But you think about it is like, what about the next generation of Richard Childress or Rick Hendricks or Roger Penske's? What are they going to do? Are they going to have the guts? They may, to say, you know what? I'm going to lawyer up. And we're going to run this sport, and you've got a mess. I don't think you're growing the sport. I don't think you're helping the sport. All you're doing is complicating it, driving the fan base away further, making the owners angry. Yeah. You're making the drivers angry. What is this doing in a positive energy to move the sport forward? To me, all I can see, nothing. Nothing. This is not doing it. This is what they've done for so many years of you've made these decisions that weren't popular with the fans. But in the long run, has it done anything to move the sport forward or help it grow? No, you haven't. The stage racing has not done that. The form of the playoffs and the chase has not done that. The sport has done nothing but retract since we started going down this stick in ball mentality. And I don't know if there's any point of no return here. I love NASCAR with all my heart because of my life, my entire life. And it is sad and painful to see the sport in this state right now. This is just a shell or a monster of what it used to be. And I'm like, man, I think it's important. And I see the point of guys like Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan, and Bob Jenkins stepping up for themselves and, being, say, no, we're not going to do this. Well, you just took on the bully. Right. You just took on the playground bully or whoever you want. Is like, I see it. I like it in principle. Are you going to win? I don't know. You guys go through, I want to see tech inspection come February at the Daytona 500. Let's see what happens.
And I'm curious if they do resolve this before the 2026 season, which is what the judge is aiming for. They're aiming to have this all resolved by the beginning of the season, 2026.
Yes.
If Front Row and 2311 do win, what does that do to the parts that they receive from NASCAR?
Uh-huh.
What does that do to tech inspection? And is the judge going to be aware that NASCAR controls that and controls whether or not the car can be on the track? And is there then going to be something where the judge says, hey, you better create something where you're not just keeping this car off the track because you don't like them? Because the way it is now and the way it's laid out, NASCAR could do that.
Yeah. And it always has been that way. And they could do that, but it was a dictatorship.
Right.
It was run by the France family because they said so. So you just wanted to see on their good side. When it's the last lap of the Daytona 500 and maybe William Byron goes down below that double yellow line to pass for the win, as an example, and where there's a ruling to be made. Well, was he forced down or did he pass? It's William Byron. Now, same move. Now it's Denny Hamlin. What's the ruling on that?
Well, we've had this happen plenty of times. You had Dale Jr. pass below the line when the rule was brand new, no ruling, and then Regan Smith passes Tony Stewart, and they say, no, sorry, you can't do that. Right. And then a couple of years ago when you had the Gen 6 cars, Denny Hamlin and Matt DiBenedetto and Chris Buescher were all fighting for the win. It was a 3-wide finish, and they penalized DiBenedetto for moving Byron below the line, but they didn't do anything to the race winner, Denny Hamlin, who passed both of them below the yellow line. So it's like they make it up as they go, and we joke about it. You know, the points are made up, the rules don't matter. But there's got to be a way that they can stop that and say, we need rules, like real rules.
There is no way that call goes in Denny Hamlin's favor now. There is no way.
No way.
You know, and I don't have anything against Denny Hamlin, me personally, but just
even though he drives for Joe Gibbs.
Yeah.
You know, if it's Tyler Reddick, he's not getting the benefit of the doubt.
He's not getting it. No, he's not getting it. You know, they're just, it's not going to go their way.
Yeah.
That's the danger of filing this lawsuit.
Right. But if they win, I would hope that there's some kind of protection that they get. Again, and I don't know what it is, but we'll see.
The questions are raised.
Yeah,
here we are.
The questions are raised. Final segment coming up on the scoreboard. Patrick, thank you for joining today.
Thanks, Joe.
Always fun to chat with you. We'll see you when we're back after this.
Yeah. Thanks for doing this, man. That's fun. Enjoy that.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the final segment. Happy Friday to you. I'll tell you what, it's been a fun show. Got to chat with Patrick Reynolds for a little bit earlier in the show about NASCAR and the updates on the lawsuit between NASCAR and 2311 Front Row Motorsports. I can't wait for that to be resolved. It's going to be an interesting 2025 NASCAR Cup Series. I'll tell you that much. We'll see what happens. But anyway, let's move on from the NASCAR talk for now. I want to get into what's going on not only this weekend, but tonight as well. College football playoffs. For the first time ever, we will be in the first round of the 12-team college football playoff. Tonight, 8 o'clock, it'll be Indiana heading over to Notre Dame in game number 1. That is going to be an 8 o'clock game. Now, there's already going to be a bowl game completed, maybe 2, depending on how long the game takes. By the time you guys hear this episode, at noon, it'll be Ohio versus Jacksonville State in the Staff DNA Cure Bowl. And then at 3:30, Tulane plays Florida at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa in the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. I think I said that right. Gasparilla. Too many bowl games. And then at 8 o'clock, prime time, ABC, it'll be Indiana. The Hoosiers heading to Notre Dame to take on the Fighting Irish. That is going to be at Notre Dame Stadium, by the way. First round games, just as a reminder for you, all first round games are played at the Better Seeds home stadium. So Saturday, we have 4 college football playoff round 1 games. Number 11 SMU plays number 6 Penn State. That game is going to be at Beaver Stadium at University Park, Penn State's home stadium. You also have Clemson in Texas. That's going to be at the Texas Memorial Stadium. And then at 8 o'clock, it is Tennessee and Ohio State. This one at Ohio Stadium. And I've been saying this. I don't really have a rooting interest in any of these college teams. You know, I didn't grow up with a favorite college program. So I just kind of root for the storylines. And I think one of the best things that could happen here is Ohio State loses on their home field and Tennessee plants a flag. I know we just had that lawsuit and everything with the Ohio lawmaker Josh Williams saying, hey, we're going to make it a felony to plant a flag at Ohio Stadium during a football game. Soft. Once again, soft. Saturday, we also have FCS semifinal games. It'll be South Dakota State versus North Dakota State and South Dakota versus Montana State. Got those teams up by the Canadian border playing in some playoff games there. So a big slate of college football coming up on Saturday. Now, if you want my predictions, Notre Dame's going to win. Penn State's going to win. Texas is going to win. And Tennessee is going to win. We're going to have one road team win. One. That's my prediction. Then we will see who moves on. So we have Arizona State, Oregon, Boise State, and Georgia all waiting to see who they will play in round number 2. Some news regarding Georgia. They are planning to play in the college football playoff without Carson Beck, who is exploring surgery options to repair an injury to his elbow on his throwing arm. If you remember the game against Texas in the SEC championship game, he was hurt on the final play of the first half. I believe he was going to throw a end of half Hail Mary. And when his arm came forward, it got hit and it probably pulled something there. And now all of a sudden, it looks like Georgia's going to be without their starting quarterback. Sophomore quarterback Gunnar Stockton is expected to make his first college start in the college football playoff quarterfinal matchup at the All-State Sugar Bowl in New Orleans on New Year's Day. Now, we don't know who they're going to play yet, but they will play the winner of Indiana and Notre Dame. Moving on from that, I want to get to the NFL real quick before we end the program today. Last night, Thursday Night Football, history was made. For the first time in 48 years, we had a fair catch free kick. What is a fair catch free kick, you might ask? You've probably never heard of it because there hasn't been a successful fair catch free kick in 48 years. Basically, on a punt, if the receiving team calls a fair catch, they can opt for a fair catch free kick, which is from the line of scrimmage, a uncontested field goal attempt. It looks more like a kickoff than a field goal, but it is uncontested. There's no snap. There's no time that gets run off the clock. Cameron Dicker of the LA Chargers hit it for 57 yards for the first ever fair catch free kick make since 1976. And it was an entertaining Thursday night game last night too. I know we've been talking about the games on Thursday night and whether or not they've been good or bad. Much better than last week where we had more punt yards than offensive yards. That's true. Go back and look. There were more punt yards than offensive yards in the game between the Rams and the 49ers. This one was a little different. But the Chargers are now one step closer to a playoff berth with that victory. Now, most teams still have 3 games remaining. We have a couple of Saturday games in the NFL. The Houston Texans head to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. And then you have the Steelers going to Baltimore to play the Ravens. On Sunday, the Panthers play their final home game of the year against the Cardinals. Can they win this game? Yeah, they very well could. The Cardinals are a very up and down team. Like, you really never know what you're going to get with them. But should they win this game? I'd go for the draft pick if I were them. That's my honest opinion. So the Panthers and the Cardinals here at Bank of America Stadium, 1 p.m. kickoff. If you're watching, it'll be on Fox. Other good games around the league this week. We do have some. The Eagles play the Commanders. That is a 12-2 team versus a 9-5 team. You have the Vikings at the Seahawks, which is going to be a very important game for both teams. And then we have Monday Night Football again. So those are the better games this weekend. There are, you got the 49ers playing the Dolphins, a couple of teams that are on the outside looking in. The Buccaneers and the Cowboys. Buccaneers currently leading the NFC South. Cowboys trying to hang on to any chance that they'll make the playoffs. The Browns and the Bengals. My Super Bowl champion Bengals. I don't know what possessed me to pick the Bengals to win it all this year. But if they can beat the Browns 7-8 with only a few games left, I still don't think they'll be able to make it, because when you look at the playoff picture as it stands, the last team in to the playoffs are the Denver Broncos, who are 9-6, whereas the Bengals are 6-8. Now they can get within 2 games here if they win, but they would need some help. Either the Ravens, Chargers, or Broncos need to lose out, really. And the Bengals need to win out, but they also need the Dolphins and the Colts to lose. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on. The only teams in the NFC that have been eliminated are the Bears, the Panthers, and the Giants. The only teams still in contention in the AFC that have not been eliminated or are not currently in the playoffs are the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Bengals. Each of those teams can only be 2 games out after this weekend, and that's assuming that they win. Coming up on the end of the program here, came fast today. We spent a lot of time chatting with Patrick Reynolds. That's one of the reasons that it was a shorter all-around sports episode today. But as we do every single day, this day in sports history. It was on this day in 1966 that the NBA awarded the Seattle Supersonics a franchise for the 1967-68 season. It was also on this day, 1983, Guy Lafleur becomes the 10th NHL player to score 500 goals. Those are just some of the things that happened on this day in sports history. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. I love talking to each and every one of you. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend. I'll talk to you guys on Monday. Until then, see ya.